Welcome, everyone. Again, my name is Rachel Heenan. I'm the Division Director of Special Education at the California Department of Education. Really excited for this day. I feel like it's a long time coming here for CDE. We've had many celebrations throughout the state. And really, really excited for CDE to share and lead this day. So thank you again for joining us. This is the 50th anniversary of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or the IDEA. And your presence here, whether you're parents, families, students with disabilities, agencies, CDE, really reflects our commitment to students with disabilities and improving outcomes for all students in California. So thank you all for being here today. This is my first opportunity to be an MC. I've never been an MC in my life, but I am going to introduce a lot of really exciting speakers today. We have representative from our state SELPA Association, our Special Education Local Plan Area Association. We have our State Council of Developmental Disabilities. We'll hear from parents, students, persons with disabilities of all abilities. We have our Advisory Commission on Special Education, the State Board of Education, and our State Superintendent of Public Instruction will be joining us momentarily. We're really, really excited about this day and our why. I always like to come together for a good party, but the why, again, today is more heartfelt than we can even explain. So nearly 50 years ago, and for all of us who are in that age bracket, it wasn't very long ago. 50 years ago, a landmark law changed public education in our country. Originally passed in 1975 as the Education for All Handicapped Children Act. This legislation today is known as IDEA, opened the doors for millions of students with all abilities to share classrooms, to share space together. And more importantly, it provided our students with a free and appropriate public education with all students. Because of IDEA, classrooms today are more inclusive, and most students with disabilities spend the majority of their day alongside their typical peers, learning, belonging, having high expectations for every single learner. Early intervention services, family partnerships, and inclusive schools have strengthened outcomes for students across our state. And these principles really are the heart of the mission for our Division of Special Education, that one day every student in California will flourish in an inclusive, equitable learning environment with innovative and personalized support. So today, as we celebrate this milestone, we also honor our educators here, our families who are here, and our leaders who continue to do this work every single day. So it's my honor to introduce our distinguished speakers today, who embody the very spirit of what IDEA is through their commitment, through their vision, through their leadership, and as persons throughout the state. So to begin our program, I'd like to invite our State Board of Education Special Education Liaison, Dr. Allison Yoshimoto Tauri, to join us for a few words.
Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Allison Yoshimoto Tauri. It's amazing that we have standing room only. I would invite those of you in the back to find a seat for the program. There are seats up in the first rows, so please feel free to come on up. And it's my honor here today to say a few words as we gather to celebrate the 50th anniversary for IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Act. That law literally and figuratively opened the door for millions of students and families and changed the landscape for them 50 years ago. And yet, a law is a law. And what really makes a law come to life and the promise of a law is the dedication of people like yourselves and those that aren't here in the room that made commitments, dedication, fought really. And, you know, as a parent myself, I with my son as we navigated a system that I was very familiar with. Uh, I felt very helpless at times, being reliant on other people to meet what we felt was best for my son. And I think most of you know, if you were to just accept at face value the first time you were told something, you might not get everything that you really deserved or your child really deserved. And so it is also about continuing education for our families and our communities, and holding hands together and standing up together to help each other um, look at the next 50 years, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, and what this law means to really fully realize the promise of IDEA. It's going to take continued collaboration and education together to support. And I will just say that, you know, the law for me went from students being told and families being told that they couldn't be served in our public schools to having a seat at the table where their voice was heard and a plan was created. And again, that's really the baseline from what we want to explore. So I encourage you today, as you listen to the different speakers, as you listen to the heartfelt stories and experiences, that we also really take a moment to think and reflect on not only where we've been and how far we've come, but where we want to head. So again, I thank you for being here, and I look forward to today's event. Thank you.
Thank you, board member. So our first speakers today represent the SELPA, the Special Education Local Plan Area Administrators of California. It's an organization that has been a strong voice for students with disabilities for over 45 years. SELPA, as we lovingly call the association, was established in 1977 to ensure that every student with disabilities has access to supports and services they need, no matter the zip code or where they live. Today, California has 136 SELPAs, each dedicated to providing high-quality support, inclusive education, and services in collaboration with our families, with our educators, and our local education agencies. The SELPA Administration of California is a statewide association of current and retired leaders who work together to influence best practice, policy, and advocate for equitable opportunities for all students, specifically students with disabilities. Their commitment to inclusion, collaboration, and continuous improvement has had a profound impact on our families, educators, and everyone across the state. As a former SELPA administrator, these are my friends and dear colleagues who do the work. They have the heart for the work in every single decision they make every day. So it's my honor to introduce Veronica Coates, Chair of the SELPA Association and Assistant Superintendent at the Tehama County Office of Education, and Dr. Scott Turner, the Executive Director of the East San Gabriel Valley SELPA, who will share a few words with us. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for that warm welcome, Dr. Heenan. It is standing room only. We're sitting up here, and I actually captured how many of you were here, and now I'm probably even more nervous and just honored to be here. This is a really special day. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. As Rachel said, my name is Veronica Coates, and I have the honor of serving as the Assistant Superintendent of the Tehama County SELPA, just due north of here where we are. And also I'm the current chair of the SELPA Administrators of California Association this year. As Rachel so eloquently put, I'm going to give a little background. The SELPA Administrators of California is a nonprofit association representing the 136 special education local plan areas. Over the past year, we have celebrated this anniversary and profound impact of the landmark legislation and civil rights law that has spread across California as well. Celebration must also call us forward, because the work of building a more inclusive future for students with disabilities is not yet complete. So we're going to take you on a little journey through our talk today around some history, but really hopefully at the end of our talk, a true call to action.
Thank you, Veronica. Good morning. My name is Scott Turner, Executive Director of the East San Gabriel Valley SELPA and immediate past chair of the SELPA Administrators of California. As we reflect on the 50th anniversary of the IDEA, we are reminded of just how new and emerging the field of special education is. While 50 years may seem like a lot of time to many of us, it's just a blink when you think of history overall. In celebrating the 50th anniversary of the IDEA, we're also reminded of the immense history of California in serving individuals with disabilities. Long before the IDEA or any federal law requiring special education, California differentiated itself from many other states by providing programs for individuals with disabilities. These programs included state schools for the deaf and blind, dating back to 1860, to disability-specific programs in districts throughout California, and even consortiums for districts for the purposes of special education long before California required special education local plan areas, or SELPAs. However, even with the most proactive intentions, we know the programs of these eras were inconsistently funded, not readily available across areas of the state, and were largely segregated within communities. We also know that many individuals with disabilities were still within their own homes or institutionalized during this time. In the early to mid 1950s, the civil rights movement began to reshape the educational system. The 1954 Brown versus Board of Education ruling established that separate is not equal based on race, starting the process for desegregating schools across our country. We know that this work was not achieved overnight, and many will point to examples as to how this work is still being done today. But for individuals with disabilities, it took an additional 2 decades for monumental legislation to be enacted to address the segregation and institutionalization of individuals with disabilities in our country. In the congressional hearings and grassroots advocacy leading up to 1975, it was estimated that over 1.8 million school-age children with disabilities were completely shut out or denied access to public schools. An additional 4 million school-age children with disabilities were receiving inadequate, inappropriate, and largely segregated services. Public Law 94-142, the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, enacted by Congress and signed by President Ford, in response to these findings, established that all children with disabilities were entitled to a free and appropriate public education, regardless of their needs or localities. Local educational agencies, or LEAs, were tasked with activities such as search and serve or child find, terms that personally, to me, seemed to use odd terminology when I was pursuing my credential and master's in special education, but seem very appropriate when you consider the millions of school-age children with disabilities completely denied access or not provided appropriate services within public schools during this time in our history.
And Scott and I are fortunate to walk in the footsteps of giants, the late Sarge Kennedy, who worked in my SELPA and Tehama County SELPA for many years, and Jack Lucas, who worked, I believe, in your SELPA. So it's just funny we're here together as they're our mentors and have really laid the foundation for much of the work in California and showed us what fierce advocacy looks like. Their courage and vision shaped the systems we now steward. And for me, this history is personal. My grandma worked at the Yountville State Hospital when Scott was talking about that time when students were institutionalized. And I remember hearing her stories about that was her favorite job of all time. So growing up, it was just an inspiration for me to become a special educator in a different time. My aunt also worked with students with significant behavioral and emotional disabilities. So I've lived this landscape across my generations, and the stories I've heard and direct impacts I have seen personally and professionally reflect the mission of SELPAs, ensuring rightful presence, belonging, and inclusion. They're not aspirations, they are promises we must honor. Even before PL 94142, now known as the IDEA, California was leading. In 1974, we had the California Master Plan for Special Education. I still have an original copy in my office. And it laid the foundation for a continuum of services that continues to guide us today. Landmark court cases have guided us along the way. in Board of Education versus Raleigh, the highest court of the land, the Supreme Court, said schools must provide a basic floor of opportunity. This wasn't perfect, but foundational. It affirmed that education for students with disabilities is not optional, it's a right. In the Ninth Circuit, the Rachel H. case strengthened the framework for least restrictive environment, also known as LRE, giving us a balancing test that has shaped inclusive practices for decades. And less than 10 years ago, think about that in relation to history. In 2017, the Andrew F. case further raised the bar, merely more than de minimis. Progress is not enough. Students with disabilities deserve ambitious goals and meaningful challenges. Individualized education programs must be reasonably calculated to enable a student to make progress appropriate in light of their unique and diverse experiences. Most recently, the Ninth Circuit's Redondo Beach decision reminded us that access to general education must be substantive, not symbolic. A student's grade level performance does not determine their right to learn alongside their peers. This decision reemphasized that the IEP dictates whether a student is receiving educational benefit and reminds us that nowhere in IDEA or California Education Code is the IEP referred to as a plan. It is a program, and educators are challenged to ensure that an individualized program is implemented for each student in the least restrictive environment as appropriate. These cases are not endpoints, there are guideposts, and we'll continue to have guideposts. They call us to push for greater opportunity, deeper equity, and stronger outcomes. As SELPAs, we partner with the CDE to advance not only changing mindsets around inclusion and belonging, but also shared leadership and responsibility. Our responsibility is twofold: to advocate boldly within our LEAs and districts, ensuring that LRE is realized for every student, and to examine our own behaviors and mindsets, because the leader's perspective is the most powerful force in advancing inclusion. Inclusion begins with us, and true leadership begins with reflection. This reflection has and was a catalyst for some internal accountability, making sure our leadership as SELPAs reflects the values we are seeking in our schools. We demonstrate this commitment through a variety of ways, including the statewide system of support. Our focus is clear: student outcomes, inclusion, access, collaboration across agencies, elevation of student and caregiver voice. Through the statewide system of support and redesigned monitoring, we are strengthening accountability to ensure students with disabilities receive a free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment, and the LEAs are supported in achieving these outcomes. As we celebrate this anniversary, we also must look forward. California continues to lead the way. Year after year, advocates continue to fight to ensure the federal government keeps its promise to fund IDEA. California continues to answer by increasing statewide funding for special education. And our values are reflected in our budgets. This year's proposal recommends full equalization of special education funding across all SELPAs. It's almost 30 years past the innovative AB 602 model was released, and many of us did not think we would ever see this in our lifetime, and we could possibly see it this year. It is more than numbers on a page. I say that all the time. Students are more than numbers on a spreadsheet, numbers on a page. It reflects a commitment that the promise of IDEA, the presence, opportunity, and dignity of students with disabilities is not just a catchphrase. It is a principle we honor at the very top of our state's priorities. Yet we know the work is not finished. Students with disabilities remain the only population still routinely segregated. Inclusion is far from universal. This is a civil rights issue. The disability community is the last group of children and young adults for whom we continue to allow this segregation, and that is not acceptable, not in 2026. So we must ask ourselves, when history looks back at IDEA's 75th or 100th anniversary, how will our story be told, this next phase? Slow and steady, incremental movement, or bold, transformative leadership that reshaped education? Legacy requires intentionality, courage, and vision. SELPAs exist to ensure no student is left behind and to ensure every child has access. Lastly, to ensure that we as leaders reflect the values we champion in our schools every day. Our mission and vision call us to lead collaboratively, to elevate families and students as true partners, and to build systems that are equitable, sustainable, and rooted in the belief that all children belong. Let us honor the giants who came before us by making inclusion not a milestone, but a movement. Let us honor our students by ensuring their full participation in classrooms, communities, and the lives they deserve. And let us ensure that when the 75-year or 100-year celebration comes, California shines as a model of courage, commitment, and the unwavering pursuit of equity and justice for every diverse learner. Thank you.
Thank you again to our SELPA Association for making the trip today and coming to celebrate with us. Next, we'll hear from our council, the State Council for Developmental Disabilities, Executive Director Erin Carruthers. And so for those of you who may not know, the State Council for Developmental Disabilities is established by both state and federal law as an independent state agency to ensure people with developmental disabilities have the support and the services that they need. People with intellectual or developmental disabilities know what's best for themselves. They know what they need to live independently and to actively participate in their communities. Through advocacy, system building, capacity building, and systemic challenge, SCDD works to achieve a person-centered and family-based system of individualized service, support, and assistance. Erin Carruthers is the Executive Director of the California State Council of Developmental Disabilities. He's worked in the civil rights policy programs for over 25 years, including as an appointee of 2 governors, the California Attorney General, and the State Senate and Assembly. He is currently carrying out the Council's 2026 theme of Better, Stronger, Together. Last year's SCDD's work impacted more than 3 million Californians. He is a child of parents with developmental disabilities, a person with disabilities, and is the parent of a young man who also has different needs. Erin, can you please come up and share a few words?
Dr. Heenan, thank you so much for that thorough introduction. Like, it's hard to describe someone's professional history, personal history, organizational history. You're doing a great job as an MC, a natural. Thank you for the invitation to this event and also for the touches to make this event accessible, including ASL interpreters. I'm going to say something in interpreter now. I can speak quickly sometimes. If I talk too quickly, give me a nudge. Okay. All right, so what we know today to be a standard, really to be a baseline, was once a radical idea, and that was that students with disabilities have a right to free and appropriate education. Every speaker has said it so far, every speaker that's to come will say it. But why was it radical? It was radical because it rejected exclusion. It was radical because it rejected low expectations. It was radical because it declared disability does not predict dreams. It does not predict opportunities. As Executive Director of the State Council on Developmental Disabilities, SCDD, I see every day how that radical promise continues to shape lives across California. I can also see how it's shaped generations. The SCDD, we've been doing our work for 55 years, and we do our work by asking the community every 5 years, what do you want us to work on for you? We saw about a 15, 20-year period where the number one answer was, basically, help me get my benefits and keep my benefits. Then about 15 years, something interesting happened. Employment was the number one answer. Then 5 years after that, it was employment, housing, education. 5 years after that, those themes continued. We just completed the survey again. 4,200 people responded to a voluntary survey. There was nothing in it for them except the belief we would do something with the information. The answer again was these whole life measures. We all believe that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities should live, learn, thrive in the communities of their choosing. And that belief doesn't begin in adulthood, it begins in school. Special education exists to prepare students for this full life that we hear being asked for from the community, including employment, including living independently. That preparation begins with an important document, the IEP. The IEP is more than a document, it's the cornerstone of IDEA. It's rooted in the simple but profound idea that students have individual strengths, needs, dreams, and goals. The IEP operationalizes dignity. An effective IEP is not about compliance, it's about possibility. When we tailor supports appropriately, we unlock potential. The IEP becomes that vehicle for independence, for self-determination. Students learn to advocate for themselves. Families, parents become empowered partners. Educators collaborate in a way that centers the student's future. 50 years ago, the idea that students with disabilities should be included in classrooms, learning alongside their peers, was revolutionary. But what's more radical than inclusion? Inclusion says you belong here. Radical inclusion says systems are going to have to adapt for us, not us adapt for the systems. But even today, inclusion takes courage. It requires disruption. It requires dismantling long-standing barriers, and it remains the North Star of the IDEA and of the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. We're disruptors. Our core work is systemic change and barrier removal. It's disruption of how things have been to make them better for people served. We look beyond the individual and ask, what policies, practices, structures are interfering with opportunity? For example, chronic absenteeism is more than a statistic. It's a barrier to learning, barrier to skill development, to graduation, and ultimately to employment and independence. However, when a student with disabilities misses school because of medical needs, treatment schedules, transportation challenges, the wheelchair broke, the lift broke, other disability-related factors, well, if these absences were approached as a compliance issue, rather than to reduce chronic absenteeism, that can create a barrier to access. We need to approach this issue as a supports need issue, get ahead of it, and make sure people are still integrated in their school system. It's an area that's happening, it's an area we hear from parents, and it's an area we can improve together. Another area, similarly, is we're engaged in deep conversations about off-campus work opportunities and meaningful transition pathways to employment. If the purpose of special education is to prepare for employment and independent living, then we must ensure that students have access to these real-world, real-life work experiences. I'll say this, a little bit of humor, a lot of sincerity. If there's any member of the legislator's office or staff in here, we got bill ideas on both of these, just come talk to me. We'll get you the unbacked bill before this Friday's introduction deadline. Because that's what we do. We advance policy to make the changes. But those systemic changes require partnership. And that's why I want to take a moment to thank and to applaud the extraordinary work that's happening at the California Department of Education. Thank you to the superintendent. Thank you to Dr. Heenan. Thank you to all those great people in your shop that I get to work with, including Noelia Hernandez. CDE has demonstrated leadership in providing technical assistance to local agencies, building capacity across the state. They're not just enforcing compliance, they're supporting improvement. They're highlighting innovative programs that prepare students for the future, programs that integrate career technical education, inclusive practices, and transition planning in meaningful ways. They're investing in capacity building so educators feel supported, not isolated. And when you look at that work, building systems, strengthening outcomes, centering equity, is it any wonder that SED and CDE are collaborative partners? Because our missions intersect, because our values intersect. We both believe in preparing students not only to graduate, but to participate fully in community life. We both believe in equity. We both believe in access. We both believe in outcomes that matter in and beyond the classroom. And we believe in the promise, the legacy, and the future of the IDEA. Yet, As we celebrate, we must also recognize some of the work ahead. Funding gaps remain. Support staff are hard to find. Parents struggle to navigate complex systems. Outcome disparities persist. The school-to-prison pipeline for students with disabilities, and especially students of color, is real. But here's what gives me hope. The IDEA is resilient. It has always been powered by parents who refuse to accept no. It's been powered by educators who believe in potential and by students who grew into self-advocates who demanded voice and agency. Today, many adults leading in disability rights are individuals who benefited from the IDEA. That is the long arc and impact, and that impact continues. We're talking today about a living promise, a promise that must evolve as society evolves, a promise that must be strengthened as new barriers emerge, and we must continue to listen to students, to parents, to families, to educators. When we get real input, we can make real impact. When we center lived experience, policy becomes more effective, systems become more humane, outcomes improve. So today, we celebrate 50 years of the IDEA. Here's to another 50 years of inclusion that means radical, that remains radical, of equity that remains urgent, and of opportunity that continues to expand. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Super touching. Take a look around. Well, if you were in this room, came at the beginning, take a look around at this room. This is our why. This is the support and the people who are moving this work forward. So again, I can't thank everybody enough for being here. It makes me think the next 50-year celebration, which I won't be here, sorry to say, but we might need like a gymnasium or an auditorium. This is beautiful. So thank you for all of you for coming. So our next speakers really wanted to hear a personal perspective from both a parent and adult who have been with us through the IDEA school system and later on as adult consumers in life. Robin Ryan and her son Gabriel are here to speak today. Robin brings over 30 years of experience in special education, technical assistance, family support, and expertise in strategic planning, training, compliance oversight. She does it all. She also currently works as a coordinator within the Sacramento County Office of Education, and she leads our Seeds of Partnership program, which is so critical for our outreach to families and persons and educators all in the field of special education. She is a part of our system of support. She is our leader in that system. Her work centers on family engagement, California Family Empowerment Centers, research and evaluation, and professional learning. Robin contributes to our state and national work groups and collaborates closely with our educators, parent centers, community partners, and individuals with disabilities to strengthen our systems of support. Her work is grounded in both professional and personal experience. As a parent, she is deeply committed to improving access, opportunities, and outcomes for individuals with disabilities and their families. Gabriel Ryan is a writer, a presenter, and an advocate with over 12 years of experience as a blog contributor for School Health Corporation. He currently authors Gabriel Ryan's Access Angle, which is a featured blog focused on accessibility, inclusion, and practical resources for individuals with disabilities. Through his writing, Gabe connects disability policy to real-world experiences that offer insight and recommendations to promote independence, access, and inclusion. In addition to his writing, Gabriel serves as a presenter, a panelist, a community volunteer, sharing his lived experience to highlight the transformative impact of inclusive practices, disability rights, and universal access in everyday life. So it's my honor to introduce Robin and Gabriel. Would you please come up and share your story?
everybody. Hi. Thank you, Dr. Heenan, wherever she went. We're honored to be among so many colleagues and friends and champions to participate in this IDEA celebration event. The IDEA has brought along many services, programs, and policies, and there's so much that could be mentioned today. But we would like to focus on the importance of access inclusion. So definitely a theme here today with the rest of the speakers, of course. As a parent of a son with a disability, access and inclusion are not just concepts to me. They're deeply personal. It's being included, valued, and truly being seen. I also have the privilege of working in the field of education and focus on family support throughout California for almost 30 years. I often get to see how impactful the principles of IDEA are when they are implemented. When families are supported, they can better support their children with disabilities to access education and beyond. IDEA had been signed into legislation 20 years prior to my son Gabriel entering preschool. But there I was, a young mom with a 3-year-old, Gabe, with his tiny blue wheelchair, manual wheelchair, trying to convince the school district that Gabriel belonged. He belonged in the neighborhood school. He belonged in the general ed class. The district proposed only a special day class with students learning communication skills. And it was an hour bus ride away. And that's where they had support staff, and that was the reason. And they were also not sure how to support Gabe in a typical preschool class, so the neighborhood school was not an option. But it became my mission to find the person in the district who better understood the principles of IDEA and who would work with us to implement them. And so I learned a lot about IDEA that year, and so did the school district. Gabe did attend his neighborhood school in the general education preschool class with services and supports. And that began his journey of access and inclusion in the educational space.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to come speak today. I'm going to share a little bit about my experience with the IDEA in the educational system. So the IDEA was definitely an instrumental thing during my time being in the educational system, and I even used the tools from the IDEA even now. So the IDEA was helpful for me in the classroom so I could be fully included with my peers in different subjects like science, history, and math. And it was also really helpful because oftentimes I would learn the information and then I would also be the first one with my hand up with the answer. Next, I'm gonna share a little bit about how making friendships in the classroom and creating relationships with those educators were helpful during my experience. I ended up having so many friends, and what's nice was they got to learn a little bit about someone with a disability as well, and learn about my wheelchair and ask me questions, and that was really helpful, not only for that time, but the time, of course, when we're not in school and they see someone out there, they could think of me and maybe have a conversation with them and see how their day's going. Next, I wanted to share how important it is to create multiple friendships in the community. So outside of the classroom, I've used the principles of IDAA in my everyday life and going around in the community. So when I'm at a restaurant, I just talk to the manager or someone that I become friends with, and just creating that relationship so that way next time when I come in, they know me, and we can also get a good seat in the restaurant. But having those relationships are crucial to our community, because you never know what they'll do next. So you might see them somewhere else, and then they'll remember you. But I just think it's really important to have those relationships. And I quickly wanted to highlight my work. So I'm a blog writer, as Dr. Heenan mentioned, and I use a lot of the principles in the IDA and beyond to write about my topics, because it's really important not to forget the people that came before you and paved the way for everyone to be included. So I'm gonna pass it back to Robin, and then we can move on.
Thank you. So we have found that access and inclusion doesn't just happen, right? It has to be intentional by design. The most helpful supports, preschool through high school, were trained one-on-one support, assistive technology, occupational and speech therapy, etc. But the biggest success factor was the mindset of the staff. The biggest. They treated Gabe as capable, especially the general education staff, who often came up with some of the best ideas on how to include Gabe into their class and provided access to what was being taught. A special nod to the educators who are creative and find ways to make access, inclusion, and belonging a priority. Today, We celebrate the opportunities and achievement connected to this legislation. Today, we lift up and hold space for the difficult experiences so many families, individuals with disabilities have faced and continue to face in accessing education and welcoming environments. And this is critical because it helps us all to learn better, learn to do better. Today, we encourage commitment to this important work and strengthening partnerships to make it happen for each student in California. So IDEA didn't just change systems, it changed lives. And we share our experience today because we believe
access is not
say it together.
yeah.
Access is not optional.
Not optional,
And
and inclusion is not negotiable. Thank you.
Another round of applause, please, for Ryan and Gabriel. Thank you. Thank you, Gabe. Next, we have our Advisory Commission on Special Education, or the acronym we use is ACSE. As we continue this celebration, it's my pleasure and privilege to recognize ACSE, whose members provide essential guidance to the State Board of Education, to the legislature, to the state superintendent, ensuring that policies and practices support meaningful outcomes for our students with disabilities. We're especially grateful that the Commission has joined us to share this event today. So it's now my honor to introduce the chair of ACSE, Sarah Notch. And for those of you who don't know, Sarah brings a wealth of experience to this role. She's worked in classrooms and districts and county offices across California. She began her career as a special day class teacher for students on the autism spectrum. She served numerous leadership roles supporting students from birth to age 22, and both as a professional and a parent of a child with a disability, she brings deep insight, passion, and advocacy to her work, helping districts remove barriers, engage families authentically, and to create truly inclusive learning environments. So it's my honor, please join me in welcoming Sarah Notch, the chair of the Advisory Commission on Special Education.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Heenan, for such a wonderful introduction. I'm very honored to be here and have so much appreciation for this event and what everyone in this room means. 50 years ago, Congress did something extraordinary. Before that moment, schools in America could simply say no to children, and they did. Children were told that they did not belong. Families were handed a narrow set of grim options, shaped not by possibility, but by low expectations. More than 1 million children were excluded from public schools entirely. Another 3.5 million attended, but received no meaningful services. Think about that. 1 million children erased from classrooms. Millions more present, but invisible. IDEA changed that. It declared that every child, every single child, has the right to a free and appropriate public education. Today, we celebrate that commitment. I stand before you as the chair of the Advisory Commission on Special Education, a former special education teacher, and currently an administrator at the San Mateo County Office of Education. My mother was a special education teacher, so I went into the family business. And she, in a single moment, went from a practitioner to a consumer of the very services that she once provided when a car accident caused a traumatic brain injury. This work has been the heartbeat of my life. When I became a parent, that heartbeat that heartbeat became even stronger. My youngest son has complex special education needs. I know what it's like to sit in an IEP as an educator and as a mom, to hope that someone sees your child's strengths before they see the challenges. If my son had been born before 1975, he would not be in school today, no question. Instead, he has services, supports, a team committed to understanding him, professionals who see his potential, know his strengths, and push for his success. And knowing the history, what I keep coming back to is this. All of this is possible because teams commit over and over to helping my son realize what once seemed unimaginable. Not lowering the bar, not managing my expectations, not preparing me for limitations, but by dreaming big without borders. That's what IDEA made possible. It gave children rights. It gave families a voice. It gave us a framework rooted in civil rights, not charity or gifts. IDEA didn't just open schoolhouse doors, it shifted power. 50 years is not a small milestone. It represents generations who refused to accept exclusion as inevitable. Today, nationwide, more than 7.5 million students receive special education services. Children who once would have been institutionalized are now in classrooms, on playgrounds, in band concerts, and science fairs, and walking and rolling across graduation stages. They are seen, they are thriving, and they are transforming their communities. And it happened because people refused to accept no as an answer. IDEA created something powerful, accountability. The individualized education program is not a suggestion. It is a legally binding commitment. When systems fall short, families have rights. When services are not delivered, there is recourse. Accountability means honoring the dignity of every student by keeping our word, keeping our promises to children who cannot afford for us to fail. IDEA ensures that we must keep trying and improving. The least restrictive environment mandate changed our mindsets. Instead of asking, why should this student be included? We now ask, why wouldn't they be? It created opportunities for friendships, for shared learning, and for community. Students with disabilities are not guests. They belong fully, proudly, and without exception. The disability rights movement gave us guiding principles. Nothing about us without us. Today, people with disabilities are leading policy, designing programs, shaping systems. Their expertise is essential. And there are possibilities now that were once thought out of reach. Programs like the Redwood Seed Scholars at UC Davis opens authentic college experiences to students with intellectual and developmental disabilities, real coursework, real campus opportunities, real pathways to independence. Beth Foraker, who leads this program, once shared that when her son was born, she was handed a list of limitations, what he would likely never do, what he would likely, what she should never expect from him, and what possibilities were off of the table before he'd even had a chance to begin. Those predictions were based on the world as it existed in the moment. A world without smartphones, a world without ride shares, a world without FaceTime, countless other assistive technologies that now enable him to lead a full and independent life. If she had accepted those limitations as fixed truth, it would have been an extraordinary injustice. Children are not limited by the tools that exist when they're born. They grow into a future that's still being invented. That's our charge as educators. We prepare students not for the world as it is, but for a world that does not yet exist, with tools not yet created, and opportunities we can't even yet imagine. Anchor expectations in possibility, and students rise to meet it. Anniversaries are not just about celebration. They're about recommitment. So let's keep this civil rights flame alive. Let's design for rightful presence. Students with disabilities are not exceptions. They are members to design for. We construct classrooms with multiple ways to access learning from day one. No more retrofitting. Let's collaborate with purpose. When an IEP team operates with trust, when educators and families see each other as partners, incredible things happen. Make no mistake, collaboration is courageous work. Let's commit to learning from what works and scaling it with urgency. Across California, the Axes Impact Award shines a light on extraordinary practice, innovation that's not theoretical, but proven. These are not isolated bright spots, they are blueprints. Progress is not only about inventing something new, it's also about recognizing excellence, refining it, and expanding its reach to more students. Imagine what we could accomplish if we commit to full and equitable funding, true co-creation, post-secondary transformation, widespread excellence, and authentic belonging, assumed, embedded, and non-negotiable. 50 years ago, a child like my son would not have had a place in our schools. Today he does. The next question for the subsequent 50 years is not whether students like him belong, it's whether we will build systems bold enough to match their potential. Here's what I know with certainty. We can't just maintain IDEA. We must protect it fiercely, push it boldly, and build a future where every student, every family, every educator can thrive. Every year I see more innovation, more commitment, more students achieving outcomes that would have been unimaginable even a decade ago. And I'm deeply grateful. I'm grateful to stand here, to do this work alongside you, and for every educator and advocate and family member who make this promise real every day for children. The work is complex and demanding, and it matters. So yes, let's celebrate these 50 years. Let's honor the trailblazers, the educators, families, and students. But celebration is not the end, it's fuel for the future. So let's keep dreaming big without borders. Every student across California and beyond for the next 50 years, for the world we have yet to imagine. Because every child deserves a team that chooses strength before struggle, possibility before prediction, and humanity before any label. When we anchor ourselves to that belief in policy and in practice, we do more than change outcomes. We change expectations, we change culture, and we shape what the next generation will understand as justice. And we leave no ambiguity. Belonging is a right, worth is inherent, and opportunity is our responsibility. That's how we honor the last 50 years, and that's how we ensure that the next 50 are even more just, more bold, and more worthy of every child that's counting on us. Because the promise we keep today becomes the legacy that they inherit tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So our next and final speaker before our state superintendent comes up, talk about coming full circle. Helena Lourdes Donato Sop is a 16-year-old, nationally and internationally recognized speaker. She's an educator, a poet, and disability justice advocate. She also shared a preschool classroom with my daughter at age 3. She is a Black neurodivergent young leader whose work centers on disability justice, anti-bullying, inclusion education, critical media literacy, and intersection equity. Grounded in her lived experience and family values, Helena brings a powerful youth perspective to issues impacting education, access, and belonging. Helena has presented nationally and internationally at major academic conferences, TEDx, the Global Education Forum, and is a sought-after keynote speaker. She has partnered with organizations such as the National Education Association and has been featured in national and international media, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, Zeit Magazine, Discovery Education, and the Disney Channel. In California, Helena serves as a member of the Advisory Commission on Special Education, providing recommendations to the State Board of Education and state leadership. She is also the youngest appointee to the City of Long Beach's Commission for Women and Girls. Her work has been recognized with numerous state, national, and global honors, including awards from the Council of Exceptional Children and international education and disability rights organizations. Throughout her advocacy, scholarship, and creative work, Helena amplifies youth voice and demonstrates the transformative impact of inclusive education, disability rights, and IDEA in action. So it's my honor to invite Helena to come up and share a few words.
I'm honored to speak to you all today. As a student in a California public school, I want to thank the organizers of this 50th anniversary celebration for including and affirming the power of student voices in these important conversations and celebrations. I was first diagnosed with learning disabilities at the end of first grade and again in sixth grade. I have 4 non-apparent learning disabilities: a visual processing disorder, a working memory disorder, ADHD, and dyscalculia, a math disorder. I wish I could tell you that the path of schooling was easy for me, but schools are often underfunded and teachers are often overburdened, and so my school path has been troubling at times. I was relentlessly bullied by my peers in K through 8 because of my disabilities. I had some teachers who got it and plenty of others who did not. And so I struggled with my academics in grades 1 to 5 as I was learning about my disabilities and self-advocacy. I've had some educators who saw accommodations as privileges and were against supporting me. And I have fought against the shame that some sought to lay on me and fiercely armored myself with self-worth. I've had to learn how to be a very strong self-advocate to make sure that I receive free, appropriate public education. My activism was formed every day of my schooling experience as I fought to have a fair chance at schooling. My large body of work in disability rights and inclusion is a tribute to the 850,000 disabled students in California's schools who self-advocate for a fair education every day of their school lives. It wasn't until I transferred to Orange County School of the Arts in Santa Ana that I found a school that fulfilled every right that IDEA legislated for. And now I find myself in a dream school where every need I have as a disabled student is anticipated and quickly and lovingly met. But it took me 10 years of schooling to find a safe and supportive place, and no child should have to wait that long to feel supported and successful in school. After years of struggle, it is a miraculous experience now to go to a school where IDEA supports me at every move, and I'm so grateful for this important and transformational piece of legislation. I'm especially honored to speak to you today because I'm one of a few students in the nation that are linked to the life and legacy of Judy Heumann. I won the Judy Heumann Elijah Armstrong Award for Activism on August 22nd, 2023, just 5 months after Judy's passing on March 4th of that same year. Our cohort was the last to receive this important award in her name, and we take seriously our legacy of being connected to Judy's work. She played a pivotal role in the development and advocacy of IDEA, and leveraged her personal experiences as a disabled student to fight for this important legislation. And then later in her life, she worked directly on the legislation that would become the IDEA. I'm 16 years old, and I know that policy matters, and I am happy today to celebrate with you the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. I represent the youth population of this state, and I do it proudly, because our voices matter as much as any adult voice in this room without question. And we are more than capable of continuing this fine work alongside you. I am a multiple globally award-winning disability activist and am currently in my 4th year of the partnership with the National Education Association, where I co-founded the Become a Champion for Disability Rights and Inclusion campaign. I'm an accomplished youth scholar with over 10 peer-reviewed scholarly journal articles and over 10 chapters published in scholarly books. And I was just sworn in this morning as a student commissioner on the Advisory Commission on Special Education. We are here today to celebrate 50 years of IDEA, and we are also here to commit to the work of equity and excellence in education in this great state of California. We are standing at a crossroads today where in this very political and historical moment, laws that we have long cherished are being dismantled and attacked. As we celebrate the 50th anniversary of a law that is essential for disabled students, we do not take for granted that we have it. I worry every day that my rights, my supports, and accommodations might be stripped from me, and so I stand here in my state seat of governance to commit to the work for justice and equity. Now more than ever, I look to my great state of California to be even fiercer and to lead the way in protecting the rights of disabled people. I was the 2024 Long Beach Youth Poet Laureate and the 2025 runner-up for the Los Angeles County Youth Poet Laureate, and a runner-up for the Youth Poet Laureate of the Western region of these United States. And so I will end with a piece of poetry that celebrates the power of youth voice. We believe in the power of youth voice. Stop telling us that we are going to be the leaders of tomorrow when we are busy being change makers today. See us now, hear us now, it is now. You've heard of racism and sexism, but have you heard of adultism? Adultism is the idea that somehow adults are better and more informed than youth, that we should listen more to what they have to say. That is why we believe in the power of youth voice. We can speak for ourselves. We know our world. We know our needs, and we can address them ourselves. We believe in the power of youth voice because we do not become a democratic citizen suddenly at the age of 18. We participate now. We have opinions now. We know politics now. We are feminists. We are environmentalists. We are anti-racist. We are activists of all kinds. We are informed. See us now. Hear us now. It is now. We believe in the power of youth voice to make change. We fight racism, ableism, and the destruction of our planet, and we do it now. We work against child labor around the world and the diminishment of girlhood and education, and we do it now. We believe in the power of youth voice. We are no longer silent. Loud, proud, informed, nuanced, strategic, collaborative, coalition building. We are the power of youth voice. See us now. Hear us now. It is now. Thank you.
Well, that's a tough one to follow, and I'm glad it's not me. Whoo-wee. Thank you, Helena. Appreciate you. Wow. So it's my great honor to introduce a leader whose vision is steadfast commitment to continue to shape the future of public education in California. As California State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Mr. Tony Thurman oversees the largest public education system in the nation, serving nearly 6 million students across more than 10,000 schools. Think of that. Under his leadership, California has made historic investments in community schools, expanded mental health and wellness supports, and fully implemented universal transition kindergarten to ensure that students have access to high-quality learning opportunities at their earliest years. He's championed statewide literacy efforts, including a strong focus on ensuring students read proficiently by 3rd grade. Recognizing literacy is the foundation to long-term academic success. State Superintendent Tony Thurman's leadership is deeply rooted in a belief that education has the power to transform lives. And his experiences growing up, if you haven't heard, truly shaped this lifelong dedication to public service. His unwavering focus on inclusion for all students of all abilities, innovation, and whole child education reflects the very principles of this celebration today through the IDEA. It aligns closely with our special education's mission and vision to ensure that every student in California flourishes in an equitable and inclusive learning environment. So please join me in welcoming the Honorable Tony Thurman, California State Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Thank you, Dr. Heenan, for those very kind words. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy anniversary. Good afternoon, everyone. I know that the circumstances in which we live are challenging, but I think this celebration is one that is worth noting. And I want to thank you, Dr. Heenan, and to all the staff in the Special Education Division, and everyone at the Commission, and everyone at SELPA. The list goes on and on and on. But I would be remiss to not acknowledge the comments that we heard just a few moments ago when Helena shared that incredible testimony. Can we get another round of applause? That is, I don't know what you're running for, but I'll vote for you right now. I hope you'll consider it. As you pointed out, we need real leadership, especially in these times. I have to be honest, I never thought, I'm a little older than the IDA. I'm 57 years old. I never thought in my lifetime I would hear anyone ever say that they would get rid of the U.S. Department of Education, which I always have taken as a direct attack on the rights for those who are served in special education. And I know that there have been some parts that have been tinkered with, and there's still some tinkering taking place, but everything has an end, and we will outlast this administration in its recklessness, and we will continue to protect IDEA and special education in this state and this country for the next 50 years and beyond. There were many things that I wanted to say, but after Helena's first line, I felt ashamed to say any of them. You put in important context what is so important for so many students, for so many families, for educators, for administrators, but really what we have to get better at in this state and in this country. As you spoke, all I can think about is how you are such a great example for ability, what you are capable of doing, and all of our students are capable, but everyone's different. We learn differently, we have different experiences. And shame on our state and our country for not recognizing that difference is a good thing and that we should be looking for ways to celebrate every individual for whatever their gifts and talents are. And so, as you well pointed out, we do right to see and hear the things that many of our students say. And as you were sharing your remarks, I just wanted to scream out, I see you, I hear you. I had to contain myself, but I do hope that you will continue to help us with our Advisory Commission on Special Education. Congratulations, Commissioner, and that you will continue to champion, making changes. This is my 18th year in elected life. My first two offices were local there at the City Council and at the school board. I served on a school board for 4 years where all I heard was a district saying no as it related to the needs of students who were being served in special education. I heard people say no, not because it wasn't in a person's IEP or because it wasn't good for those students. I heard them saying no simply to try and save a dollar. And I thought, how can you say no to something that is guaranteed in law? And I get it that the federal government at that time was providing even less, maybe, 8% of what we needed in terms of funding. But still, I understand the district struggle, but to say no for something that is both required, authorized, proven in law, guaranteed in law, to me seemed criminal. And so since they were voting no, I learned how to vote no too. I was a no on everything that they were saying no to. I said, I'm not voting for that because we have a responsibility. And all we did as a system is drive families to have to go and find an attorney to be able to get to that yes. And so my whole time in the legislature, I spent focused on how do we get to the yes? I'm pleased to tell you right now that this current budget for this coming year has $509 million new additional dollars for supporting special education in the great state of California. That would take us to more than $999 per student. Can we just go to the 1,000? Can we just bump over and just say we're gonna? It means that every SELPA in this state would receive the same rate. I understand that there are more than 30, some 34 that do not. And so as we talk about equity and inclusion, let's make sure that we provide full funding for all of our SELPAs, for all of our districts, and certainly on behalf of the 850,000 students who we have the pleasure to serve. And so I'm grateful to all of you. I'm grateful to the work of our families. How many family members are here today? Just raise your hand so we can salute you and applaud you. Let's give our family members a great round of applause. Our educators a big round of applause. They all know where I live, y'all. We gotta applaud them. Administrators, partners, and advocates, we will not allow special education to go away. We will celebrate this 50th anniversary, and we will work towards the next 50 years of incredible service in the great state of California. Thank you all for being here. If I could, I'd like to ask Sarah Notch to come forward, and if, as the chair of our commission, if there are any other commissioners who would like to join us. Helena, if you'd like to join us. We have some hardware to share today. A very long and detailed plaque that I know that you all would love for me to read word for word. But recognizing that I stand between you and lunch, and recognizing that Helena and others have said it all, I would just say let today be considered as Special Education Day in the great state of California now and for the next 50 years. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm going to turn off the screen behind you. So. Anybody have any jokes while we wait? Feel like that music should be playing, you know? Yep. We were just stalling until these lights go down, and they should be in lights, but we don't want the light to cast them. Ready?
So thank you, State Superintendent. Appreciate your time and for being here today. So if everyone could please just give him another round of applause. So in closing, I just want to say I can't close the celebration without bringing up and profusely thanking the Special Education Division and leaders for putting this, it's like a wedding is what I think it is. So specifically, if Noelia Hernandez is here, if you could just please stand. I think she's out probably hitting a table. She is one of the associate directors of special education, and her team for every detail that went in today. Noelia is a true leader in this state, and she has an uncanny ability to bring people together. So just wanted to express my huge congratulations, and if she's out there at the table, please do so. And her team, Tim Nash, Katie Mick, Nora Perella, Denise Lee. There's so many people who really worked on bringing this event together today. So, and especially thank you all for being here today, for really sharing this in this celebration, this huge moment in time for us. And like someone said earlier, we have come so far, but we have so much work to do. And I know together we can do this work together. So please join us out in the hallway, in the atrium for a celebration. We have some food. I wish I could say we had some drinks, but we have water, I think. So please enjoy some time outside. Again, this is your celebration, and thank you so much for coming today.